You are now listening to The Perfect Prana with Kyah Ann. What's poppin'? What's good? You're listening to The Perfect Prana Show on 88.1 FM WCRX, also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, where I post extended versions. I'm Kyah Ann, your host, and a yoga enthusiast on the Chicago scene. And if you love yoga, this is the perfect place to be. And if you do not love yoga, this is still the perfect place to be, because I have a lot in store for you all today. Yoga news, where I speak about what's going on in the world, how it relates to yoga. Yoga heals, where I bring on a very special guest and speak to them about their practice. And the weekly wellness challenge, where I've been following the 8 limbs of yoga. But before we get into all of that, let's center ourselves. Let's take this moment to go inward, to focus on our breath, to focus on our prana. Prana, translating to breath, is in the breath of life, our life energy source. There's many translations, but let's focus on that. So no matter where you're at, you're driving in the car, you're sitting on the couch, you're laying in the bed, you're walking in the park, it doesn't matter. Just take this moment to lengthen out your spine. Sit up nice and tall, stand up nice and strong, or lay long so breath can effortlessly move through you, creating a nice line of energy from your tailbone to the crown of your head. And just begin to notice your breath and know that you can always come back to this regular breathing, however you're doing it naturally and normal. And gradually begin to deepen each inhale and to lengthen each exhale. And whatever breath you're on right now, go ahead and exhale all of it out. Push out all the breath so you can begin a new breath cycle with me. Inhale through your nose, right into your belly, and hold at the top. And you can exhale, sigh it all out like and hold at the bottom. Inhale through your nose, fill up your belly like a balloon, and hold. And exhale to push out all the air, expelling all the breath. Inhale through your nose, right into your belly, past your rib cage, up to your collarbone, and hold. And exhale to sigh it out, expelling what you do not need, pushing out all the breath. And one more time with me, inhale through your nose, right into your belly, letting the breath travel up to the crown of your head. And exhale to sigh it out, pushing out all the breath. Let your breath come back to a steady rhythm. Yoga news. This week's yoga news: yoga teacher stuck in Thailand, barred from flight home due to passport issue. Just praying I can get back. So yeah, I read the story, and this yoga teacher, she was in India doing her training, and I guess she was living her best travel life, wanting to make a few stops on her way home to London, and she had a small tear in her passport, and it was just all issues. They're like, nah, you can't get on the flight and go back to London with the damaged passport like this. She took a picture of it. I was like, it does not look that bad. But anyways, she just had to go through a lot to get home. She ended up going home through the UK embassy, and she said it drained her money because that's just not something that she planned for. So she was crying in the airport, really stressed out. And man, I really feel bad for this lady, honestly, because I would be crying in the airport too. Like, oh my gosh. The travel horror stories these days have been crazy, but you know, it's all just noise. It's all just noise. I'm not going to let that deter me or let that put fear in me. And you shouldn't let that deter you or let that put fear in you. If you want to travel, do it. You know, if you have the means to travel, you want to travel, there's things you want to see, places you want to go, do it. Who knows how long we'll be able to just get on a flight and go somewhere. That's a very luxurious experience. So if you're able to, then do it. So but yeah, these news stories they make traveling so scary. But it's like terrible things happen. What are the odds, you know? For people might go on like 10 trips and then the 11th trip something inconvenient or bad happens. So it's like but speaking of terrible traveling experiences, here's the update on Taylor Casey, the woman that went missing in the Bahamas. Still missing. The mother went to the Bahamas actually to investigate the case further and just felt really suspicious about things. She felt that the people that Taylor Casey was with during the yoga retreat were told what to say and were told what not to say. There were some audio messages found from Chief Superintendent Michael Johnson. He was the officer in charge of the criminal investigation, and there were some voice notes found between him and I guess a gang. I don't know. It was very weird. The audio has not been like given to the public, released to the public, but it's all very suspicious. Taylor's mom is devastated. It's also come out that Taylor is trans and was the only Black person in the retreat. So people are feeling like, was this crime because of Taylor's identity? Was that something to do with it? Who knows? Again, another travel horror story. I hope that there's more information found out, because Taylor's mom said they went to get answers and left with even more questions, and she wants the FBI on this because obviously the Royal Bahamas police had some weirdness going on, because the chief superintendent literally just had to go on leave because of his suspicious voice messages found. So it's like, this is all so sad, Other yoga news, here are the national days that are going on. July 12th, which is actually Friday, it's already passed, but July 12th is National Simplicity Day, and I like that idea. I definitely want to simplify life. I really admire minimalists. Like the whole minimalist aesthetic it looks very nice. And I think when we can have minimal distractions in the environment, then we can really live and walk and think and act in our true purpose. Like, you know, you can focus on what you really need to be doing. Yeah, that minimalist life. I strive for that, honestly. So National Simplicity Day, it's something to honor, celebrate. Like, what could I get rid of? I'm always thinking about that when I'm looking around my environment. I'm like, this is chaotic. I need to start throwing things away or getting rid of things. I have a big bag of clothes and it needs to go. And I honestly probably need to put more clothes in that big bag. Yeah. Also, another national day, National Give Something Away Day, July 15th, which is on Monday, which will be perfect for our weekly wellness challenge. It's good to honor this day. which I'll get more into later, so stay tuned for the weekly wellness challenge to hear about National Give Something Away Day. But it's never a bad day to give. Personal yoga news. Honestly, I don't even care about the news. I mean, actually, I talked about, that little tragic case, and there's tragic things going on, but to be honest, no, I don't care about the news at this point. It's just like, bad things are happening in the world, good things are happening in the world, prices are going up, people are dying, people are still missing, war is happening, there's a lot of things happening, and I'm overstimulated. I'm really just more concerned with myself right now. To be honest, I've had some moments with this show of where I wanted to give up, and I was like, why am I doing this? I need to do things that are more practical and money making and this and that with my time, and I don't even get listeners. Why am I doing this and that? But then I had to decide that I'm doing this for the love of it, because it grounds me. It's something that makes me be mindful. It's something that puts me in the space of learning, and it's something that exposes me to other yogis in Chicago. I don't know. I was just really thinking about all the benefits that I get from doing this show, and that I shouldn't quit, even though I don't have class motivating me anymore. I don't have a grade hanging over my head. I don't have, I'm about to be out here raw. I'm not gonna have a radio station, a platform anymore. I'll just be out here floating on the internet, on the oversaturated internet. But who cares? I love it, I love to talk. I love yoga. I love to talk about yoga. I can appreciate the practice of editing and being mindful during that. Yeah, I love learning. So I decided I love podcasting. I'm not going to quit. I don't care who listens or who doesn't listen or whatever the case is. So I made up my mind this week. I'm going to stick to it. Now, there are going to be adjustments and changes. I am going to have to get a mic and stuff at home, but I'm just like, this is my hobby. This is my thing. I need to be doing something constructive with my time, so I'm not giving up. Also, I brought my bike from St. Louis to Chicago, and it's been such a joy. Biking was my first movement. I mean, not in life, but to when I was entering this new consciousness of I want to be healthier, and ode to biking, seriously, is my first movement. I loved it, and I still love it. It's just, you cover so much ground. I just see Chicago way differently. Honestly, I could have caught the train to the studio today. I didn't even do that. I got on my bike. It might have took a little longer, or maybe the same amount of time, but I just I love my bike so much, so I was like, I want to get on it. So that's been my thing lately. And today, again, I said I'm a little overstimulated. I can kind of feel myself being inclined to try to find something to listen to, always have something playing. I've found myself being in that space last night and today, and then realizing man, this stuff is playing and I'm still not satisfied. I'm still looking for something else. This is not it. So then today, when I got on my bike, normally I might put on music or put on a podcast, but then I was just no. I just rode, not in silence. I mean, I heard the sounds of the Chicago streets, but I just rode with that. I actually enjoyed that. That was nice. Just being in the moment, riding my bike in Chicago, listening to what's going on around me, just vibes. I liked it. And I hope I can find more of that throughout my next days, of where I can just get away from stimulation and be okay with that, and just be okay with my own thoughts and mind. That's what I'm working on. Yoga Heals. This week's Yoga Heals, Holli Dale. Holli teaches Hatha Vinyasa style yoga in Mexico. Yes, we are going international with our guest. She believes the true purpose of yoga is to go within, to create the internal space to know ourselves better. So let's hear from Holli about her practice and her journey with yoga. First, I'm just going to ask you, how are you doing, Holli? Thank you so much for coming on to the Perfect Prana Show.
Well, thank you for having me. Glad to be here. Everything's flowing. Finally, I feel like it's starting to flow these days.
So we got the general small talk out the way. The first question that I wanted to start off asking you, and I ask every person that comes on the show, is when did you start practicing yoga? Why do you still practice yoga today?
Well, I actually started practicing yoga in the 80s. That makes me a dinosaur. I was a teenager, and my godmother, she was an OG yoga teacher. They didn't have yoga teacher training back then. And she was hauling me around to her yoga classes with her. And so that's how I got started. Yeah.
Good. And then why do you still practice today?
Well, I didn't continue. I haven't been practicing yoga all this time since I was a teenager. I'm 54 now. Um, I um, I sort of dabbled in it. I put my toe in and out of it for many decades. But in 2019, I separated from my husband at that time. We're now divorced, and I started going to the local yoga class at my gym regularly. And I remember asking myself, why have I not been doing this? Like, it's part of my gym membership. Why have I not been going to yoga? I love yoga. At that time, when I was having a really hard time and I was in yoga class and I was in child's pose, and some little voice in my head said, I love you, to myself. And that's kind of started my journey back to yoga. I would say since then that been a very regular I've had a very regular yoga practice since then. It's become a very important part of my life. Yeah, from just my overall, um, for me, yoga fills my cup in many areas, physical, mental, and spiritual. So it's something that that's just a really important part of my everyday life now since then.
Yes. There's actually a few things based on what you said that I wanted to ask you. So I see you went times throughout your life where you weren't practicing yoga, and it is a way that a lot of us deal with our mental health issues. In those little pockets of time, how were you dealing with the mental health issues or anything like that if you weren't practicing?
Not very well. I was, I'm not sure. I was just, I wasn't doing a lot of things actively, and mindfully, during that time. And it was really when I had my daughter, she's 20 now, that I became very grounded and, very focused on creating a life that was, that would make her happy, that would be enriching for her. And so I think that actually was a part of my ability to just, be grounded and focused and centered, was having a child. But then as she got older and I started going through something through this divorce, um, in 2019, I found yoga again. Yeah, I think my intuition just led me there. And yeah, it's, of course, I've also gone to therapy, which is enormously helpful. But I think the yoga has been for me a deeper kind of therapy and a more sustaining. And it's something I can come back to on my own again and again on a daily basis. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's so relatable. Yoga does address so many issues in all three aspects: spiritual, mental, and physical, like you said. Also, just you saying, like, why haven't I been doing this the whole time? Sometimes have that thought to myself, like, how was I dealing with stuff before? Like, why wasn't I
yeah.
doing this the entire time? That's crazy, you know? Could you talk a little bit more about your journey as a teacher?
Well, so during 2020, I was going through a divorce and I was started the year out going to yoga class January, February, regularly. I was getting stronger physically, which gave me more confidence. It just spills over, into every other area of your life. Um, and and then COVID, hit in March of 2020, and the yoga studios were closed. And and so what I did, I found a yoga teacher online that I really liked at Yoga with Adrienne. Hey, Yoga with Adrienne. And I started doing yoga almost every day in my house with Yoga for Adrienne. And I just started as the months were progressing and I was getting stronger, I started just having thoughts about teaching. Like as I was going, through the motions in the class, I would think, this will be a really good cue for my class, for my students. Even though I wasn't a yoga teacher, I had never thought about being a yoga teacher. Um, and then it just became constant. Every time I was doing yoga, I was just envisioning myself teaching. Um, so, and then after several months of this, I was telling a friend of mine, every time I do a yoga class online, I can't stop thinking about teaching. And she's like, well, I have the perfect yoga teacher training for you. So I looked it up. It was near my house. Excuse me. And yeah, that's how I got started as a teacher. And it was, I think, the best thing I've ever done for myself was go to yoga teacher training. It brought me back home to myself, I would say. Yoga and then that teacher training really brought me home to myself.
Man, I mean, again, relatable because I've said the same thing. It was the best decision I ever made was going through
Mhm.
that training. Because it was just such a game changer for me. And it really helped me to deepen my practice and understanding of yoga. You know, they say
Yes.
that that's what makes you become better or something when you have to explain it to somebody else.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
so
Yeah.
you have a 20-year-old daughter, you said, and I was curious about, did yoga impact your relationship at all with your daughter?
Oh, it's impacted every relationship in my life, primarily the one with myself. I'm a different person than I was 4 years ago because of my yoga practice. And it's not just my practice. When I say practice, I mean studying, meditating, asana. I mean the whole thing as a practice. And I'm more at peace internally. I pause before I speak now. Um, I have more self compassion and I have more compassion for others as well. And of course, it starts with me, and I have more patience. And yeah, in all kinds of ways. So yes, it's improved my relationship with my daughter, which was already very close. It was already close, but I would say my edge is gone. I've
No,
softened my edges.
I love that for you. I love that for your daughter. And you
I'm
know,
sure she would agree.
yeah, it's like it's kind of like they get to experience your practice through you. So that is really amazing. Yeah, I actually was reading on your website before we spoke, and you made a special point that you love to teach beginners.
Yes.
Why?
Why? Because beginners, I think, are such a special group because they're open, right? They don't know a lot about yoga. They don't have set ideas, except maybe what they've seen, on social media. So they're open to learning about this beautiful, rich, 5,000-year-old practice of yoga. It's, and I think that so many beginners go to a yoga class and the teacher is maybe not aware that they're a beginner or isn't really sure how to approach beginners. And I think that a lot of beginners in those classes oftentimes get turned off from yoga. They might get frustrated or feel, like they can't do yoga because the class is just too physically demanding. And I think it's just really important for me to let people know. I think it's really important for beginners to know that if you can breathe, you can do yoga. And that's all it requires to do yoga. And so when I am working with beginners, I offer many options and I'm really careful to be encouraging and supportive and encourage people to do what's right for them in that moment and to take it easy and to have that self-compassion that I was just talking about, which I think and bringing that into the class. And then, yeah, just letting them be where they are in the moment and then exploring it with a beginner's mind, kind of like a child's mind, right? Um, yeah, so I think that explains it.
Yeah, definitely, because I love the beginner's mindset, like you said, and it is important, like for yourself, to keep the beginner's mindset. Just because, there's always more to learn. There's always another level. We should always be curious and just again,
Yeah.
so we can advance our practice, learn more. So, what I was going to ask you next, still kind of on the same topic, have you yourself ever been, I guess, frustrated during a yoga class in the beginning, or was it kind of an easy start for you? Like, oh, okay, yeah, cool.
No, I felt frustrated. When I first started in January of 2020, going really regularly, yeah, I wasn't very strong physically. I would get super sweaty and gross. I didn't look cute. I would struggle in a lot of the poses, and I I just kept going. I just kept going. And I slowly got stronger and I became more aware of where my body was and, what was going on. And um, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So how much do you think it was the teacher when you came back to yoga that like made you want to keep coming back versus was it just you yourself?
I think it was mostly me. There were a couple of teachers at that gym that I liked, but I think I was really trying to push through something and to be stronger internally. And so I think I needed to be stronger externally for it to translate, in all ways. I needed to be stronger in all ways. That was really important to me in that moment in time. So I think it was really internally motivated.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just something I've always kind of thought about. Because it's sometimes as a teacher, you there's only so much you can do. The motivation really is sometimes intrinsic, and it takes that person to just make up their mind, like, no, I'm gonna push through this. As I've had people, in a class before where it's like the whole way they're like grunting, struggling, out of breath,
Mhm.
just like very obviously uncomfortable, yet they stayed the entire class. And I'm like, really? Like, and then
Yeah.
I've also had people just get up and leave, and I'm always like, "Well, what could I have done to make them stay?"
I think that, I've learned, I tell my daughter this all the time, you can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. Nothing. Not one person. So, the onus is on the person in the yoga class, and maybe it's just not the right class for them. Maybe it's they just were having a bad day or their tummy hurt or, um, but people have to want to do that and make that connection with it themselves. But certainly a good teacher can be motivating and uplifting and provide the space for people to maybe just, lie down and rest and breathe for a few moments if they need to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I certainly like to do that. I tell people in my classes, first of all, if it hurts, don't do it. Stop. And second of all, if you just need to sit here and rest and breathe through it, then, do what's right for you. So to give people that, I don't know, flexibility so they hopefully can sit through the rest of the class. Yeah.
So there's actually something I did want to ask you, just about what does your practice look like on the daily now? What does it evolve to?
Well, my goal and my practice is really just to have a regular, consistent sadhana. And some days that's a physical practice that's an hour long. Some days it's 15 minutes of a physical practice on my mat. Sometimes that sadhana looks like journaling or meditation or taking a walk and listening to the birds. So just really having some time. I encompass, for me, yoga is really big. And it encompasses all of those things for me, studying, reading, journaling, um, and the physical practice and the meditation. Um, so yeah, it's just kind of, I mix it up. It's variable.
Yeah, you're like everything I do is my yoga,
Yeah.
basically.
My breath is my yoga. Yeah. Sometimes I can take one long, deep breath, maybe two, and that's my yoga. But most days I do get on my mat, but not all days. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and me too. It's evolved.
Yeah.
There's a point where it's like, oh, I didn't get on my mat today and I just broke this streak. I was doing it every single day. But I think the nice part is knowing that if I don't do it today, I always come back to it. And then, like, I always can. Like, it's always there for me. So, oh, I missed a day. It's not that big of a deal. Having that grace, like you said, for yourself and that compassion and knowing, like, I'm a human and
Yeah.
other things come up sometimes or you just don't do it. And there's always tomorrow. So something that we didn't really get to touch on that much is more so about like your philosophy in life or like mission in life or even as a yoga teacher. Like, what would you say that that is? What is something you want everybody to know?
Um, well, my philosophy, I suppose, I have lots of philosophies.
What do you
Uh,
hold the closest to your
yeah,
heart
I
or your
I
forefront
think,
of your mind?
yeah, I think right now, the one that's most important to me really is being in alignment. And what that means for me is I'm that my thoughts and my actions they feel right, they feel good, and it feels like what I'm supposed to be doing. And so of course I take that into my daily practice. That's part of what's in alignment for me right now. But that extends into every area of my life. Like food am I consuming? What people am I spending time with? And how am I showing up as a yoga teacher or a web designer, which is something else I do? And who am I showing up for? And how, in what ways am I impacting the world. So, yeah, being in alignment is probably my overriding philosophy right now. And am, I've realized really just in the last few years that I only know when I'm in alignment, when I'm able to get quiet and when I have that internal peace that I get from yoga, from a daily practice. I'm able to hear that voice or that higher self that tells me, yes, this is right, or no, this is not right for you. So, yeah.
That's actually a good way to measure, I guess, kind of think about it, like how do you know when you're in alignment?
Mhm.
Is honestly the first step for me is when you can get quiet and be okay with that.
Mhm.
Cuz definitely I sometimes go through that where it's like I cannot be in silence right now. Like, I need something distracting me. I need somebody to talk to. Then I have other moments in life where I'm like, I don't even need, there's nothing to watch, there's nothing to listen to. Just be in the
Right.
moment. Like this is it. There's nobody to talk to. Like I'm just right here, right now, existing, and that's okay, you know?
Right. Just
So
being like
that's a
separating ourselves, I think, from this idea that we have to be doing something or accomplishing something or achieving some kind of goal for our self worth. I'm trying to get away from that. Like, I'm just existing. Like, just my mere presence, my mere existence is enough. Like, that's it right there.
yes. So you know when you are in alignment, do you know when you're misaligned?
Yeah, I think I I know now when I'm able to really when I'm quiet, when I'm in meditation, when I'm at peace, I can hear, I don't know, call it your gut or your instinct or your higher self, but I can hear that voice telling me when something's right and when something's not right. Yeah. It's definitely something I have had to practice. I've had to learn how to do that. And yoga has been a very integral part in that practice.
I guess it's like the self-awareness that comes with the yoga practice is it's top tier. Yeah, like you said, you could just learn a lot about yourself through this beautiful, beautiful practice.
That's
Um,
right.
I guess, one of my last questions is just about yoga philosophy. And you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but is there a particular limb of yoga philosophy or a yama or niyama that sticks out to you the most or that you've had to like work on the most?
Well, I think ahimsa, um, is nonviolence. And for me, it also represents love and compassion. But I think turning that inward has been a really important process for me. Because as I discovered yoga several years ago, rediscovered it, I'd say, I also was learning about self compassion. And so the two have become very intertwined for me. I also extend that to my thoughts. Like, we are our own worst critics and we can be very judgmental of ourselves and other people. So I really work on being non judgmental and just really letting that go, judging other people, judging myself, because that is, in a way, a type of violence. Because when you're judging, you cannot also be loving. It has to be one or the other, they can't coexist. And when I realized that, I think I read that somewhere recently, you can't judge and love at the same time. Um, so, this idea of ahimsa and nonviolence re- is really important to me. And in this moment in my life, I would say. Yeah.
That could be on a t-shirt. You can't judge and love at the same time. And it is
T-shirt.
it's something just to be cognizant about just with the judgmental thoughts cuz it is our natural instinct to make judgments about things. I guess just learning when that instinct really isn't serving us
Right.
anymore, and when it's like, okay, we need to be compassionate and loving and empathetic and
Yes.
understanding and grace, because I know I want all those things. I want people to be that way with me. So, be the change, be what you want to
That's
see in the
right.
world, right?
That's right. I think that knowing yourself and changing yourself is the most important and the hardest change we can make in the world. Because I truly believe that when you change yourself, you become a positive force. It just ripples out. It touches the people around you, and then they are able to maybe change, and it touches the people around them. So it's just this butterfly effect, I guess.
Yes. And okay, I know I said it was my last question, but that obviously was a fib. I actually wanted to ask you, you understand that you went through divorce, which can be super hard, but as the self-help, self-improvement, optimistic podcast that this is, I wanted to
Uh-huh.
ask you, what was something that you learned from that experience? Biggest lesson you learned from
Yeah, you can't make
divorce?
anybody do anything.
Oh, there we go.
You can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do ever.
That is
That was my
important.
takeaway lesson. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
work on because he's my daughter's father. So I really work on not judging, changing my judging statements to just observations, just really practicing that and having compassion and holding him in compassion and our family. So yeah.
Yes. Oh, do you mind giving us an example though? So, when you want to turn a judgment into an observation, how do you do that?
Oh, okay. I could say, well, he was too cowardly to tell me what he wanted, and so he ran off. That's a judgment. An observation would be he didn't talk to me about what he wanted to do, and so he left. And maybe he didn't have the skills at that time, and that might be partly a judgment as well. That's probably is, but he didn't have he wasn't able to talk to me about what he wanted or what he needed and departed. So the difference between an observation and judgment.
Yes, it's kind of like exploring the possibilities of what could have been. Like you said, maybe he just didn't have the skills. Maybe they
Right.
had a tummy ache. Maybe
Right.
it was something else going on that I just didn't know. Or,
Exactly. And
you know,
and maybe, like just as this is a small example, you call someone and they don't get back to you. You could say, well, she didn't even get back to me. She, doesn't like me. Well, that's a judgment. The observation is she didn't get back to me. And if you leave the judgment out of it and make it just an observation, it's easier. I mean, it doesn't weigh you down, right? You can be lighter and freer in a way.
and I guess we can even do the same with a yoga practice in the same sense about our abilities. We might make judgments of ourselves. Like you said, change the judgments to the observations. And I like
That's
that
right.
overarching theme in life
Uh-huh.
advice. So before we go, of course, I am going to ask you to lead us through a pranayama for the radio.
Okay. Well, thank you. This has been so much fun. I am going to lead us in a three-part breath. It was the first pranayama that I led in my teacher training. So I think I'll just go back to basics. But the way I like to lead it is if you sit up tall, wherever you're sitting, in a relaxed and comfortable position, in a chair, on the floor, a couch, whatever, place your left hand on your heart because just the act of placing your hand on a heart sends you compassion to yourself. And then, if you like, you can place the other hand on your belly to feel your belly as you breathe in and out. And the 3-part breath is just entails breathing first into your lower belly and pausing for a few moments, and then into your chest, pausing, and then up to your clavicle and pausing. And so to begin, we'll close our eyes and take 2 deep breaths, normal breaths, just to get the feel of the breath moving through our body. Breathing through your nose, inhaling through your nose, and exhaling through your nose. Maybe you feel your heart beating with your left hand and your belly expanding and contracting with your right hand. And at the bottom of the next exhale, we're going to breathe just into our lower belly and pause. And then take another breath into your lungs and pause. And another all the way up to your chin. Pause. And then slowly release. Exhale through your nose. And at the bottom of this exhale, inhale 1/3 of the way up into your lower belly and pause. Inhale 1/3 of the way further, filling your side ribs and your back and your lungs, and pause. And then inhaling all the rest of the way up to the very tippy top, maybe even taking in an extra little sip of breath and pausing. And then with your lips sealed, inhale all the way out. And then breathe normally and open your eyes.
Thank you so much, Holly, for coming onto the Perfect Prana show. I really appreciate you all the way from a different country. So yes, I appreciate you so much. I'll put your website in the show notes for listeners if they are in the Mexico area. And I'm like, okay, I want to check her out. So you're listening to the Perfect Prana show on 88.1 FM WCRX, also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, where I post extended versions. To keep up with me, see what I'm doing, see where I'm practicing, follow me on Instagram at consistently Kyah, consistently spelled with a K, Kyah spelled Kyah. Weekly wellness challenge. So, of course, I've been following the 8 limbs of yoga, and we're still in the yamas. And of course, I've been recycling this because it's a path that's never ending as long as we're living. Like, we're always on this path to enlightenment. So why not recycle the 8 limbs of yoga until we're enlightened? And then, the last time I recorded, I was speaking of brahmacharya, the right use of energy, acting in line with Brahman, God, the higher power, our higher consciousness, a lot of times interpreted as celibacy or abstinent. And this is it's a hard one in yoga. A lot of people argue about this. A lot of modern yogis, of course, are not celibate and also indulge in things. So it's a interesting subject. I can't be the yogi police on this one though. I can't even police myself too much. I still have my things that I'm working on when it comes to abstaining and overindulging and correctly using my energy. I'm still trying to get control over my screen and phone habits and being mindful, so it's a process, and I'm aware that I need to work on it. So that's where I'm at right now. It's okay to be there. It is what it is. Anyways, this week, and I'm actually in the last yama, aparigraha, which is non-attachment, letting things pass, practicing for the love of practicing. Just not getting too attached to the outcome. It can also be interpreted as non-greed. So again, letting things pass, not clinging to anything. We don't want to be greedy. We want to take just what we need and expel what we don't. So again, this goes with the Simplicity Day. It's important to, again, just be not greedy. And this is why I said National Give Something Away Day, July 15th, is perfect. Because we need to give things away. We need to give time away. We need to give help. We need to give. They say the most rich people in the world, the most wealthy people in the world are people that are very kind and generous. So we're always like, get rich quick. Let's get wealthy. What do we have to do to build wealth? Well, we have to give our thoughts to other people, our time to other people, give help to other people. That's how you build community. It's giving your talents, your wisdom, what you've learned. So there's so much to be given. Since Monday will be National Give Something Away Day, let's overcome greed with generosity. I've had challenges or done things like this in the past. Let's think about being more giving this week. What can we give? Can we give somebody a hug? Can we give someone a gift? Give somebody some of our time, or just give some thought to others, being considerate of others. I'm really talking to myself with this one, but really just reflecting on what can I give this week. I might have to journal about it and decide what could I give this week? How can I be more giving this week? Always something to reflect on. Before I go, let me leave you with a quote. I actually brought this book back from St. Louis. I got it a long time ago. Somebody recommended it to me and I never opened it. And I guess I wasn't ready to. Now I'm ready to open. I feel like I can read it more consciously and it actually makes something out of reading this book. It's funny, I got this so long ago and I was not really into yoga the way that I am now. And this book is The Path of Perfection, which is perfect for the Perfect Prana show, but The Path of Perfection from Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is a mouthful to say his name. But anyways, he's a philosopher and spiritual leader, Hinduism. And anyways, the quote is, the basic principle of self-realization is knowing that I am not this material body, but am different from it, and my happiness is in eternal life, bliss, and knowledge. I like that. That's the quote of the week. Honestly, I just opened it up to a random page and I was like, okay, this will be the quote. I didn't even read the full book yet. I just like that because, yesterday I took a yoga class and it was a pretty good yoga class, and every single time they're like, set an intention. This is a good time to set an intention. I'm like, I don't know. Like, my mind is like, I'm trying, I don't know. But yesterday, set an intention, and what came to mind was to learn, and going through one of my epiphany moments, and I was like, I dedicate my life to learning. It's very important. And I want to go back there and take that thought I had at the time, bring it with me, keep it right now at the forefront of my mind, and just keep knowing I keep needing to learn. This is what my life is about. I am here to learn. And that's what I was there for yesterday in my yoga practice. I'm like, I'm here to learn. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the Perfect Prana show on 88.1 FM WCRX, available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Again, to keep up with me, to see my yoga videos and where I'm teaching and all that fun stuff, follow me on Instagram at consistently Kyah, consistently spelled with a K, Kyah spelled Kyah. Have a blessed rest of your weekend, your week, your month, the summer, and year. With that being said, the light in darkness within me bows to the light in darkness within you. Namaste.